Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lesser Known But Awesome Heroes. And today, I'll actually be talking about a duo, and one of Marvel's most underrated duos. And that is Ty Johnson and Tandy Bowen, also known as the superhero and superheroine duo known as Cloak and Dagger. So let's get into it, shall we? Cloak and Dagger's first appearance was in Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man issue 64 of March of 1982. And they were created by Bill Mantlo and Ed Hannigan. Now, their team affiliations is that they've been part of the regular X-Men, the Dark X-Men, the Secret Avengers, the Runaways. Dagger was part of the Marvel Knights, Brides of Set, and the New Warriors, and they've also been part of the Secret Defenders. Hold on. Sorry, I had a piece of fuzz on my mic there. Oh, nope, still there. Sorry. There we go. Anyway, Cloak has the ability to become intangible, teleportation abilities, and has the ability to link to the Dark Force dimension. Dagger has the ability to create hard light daggers. She also has the ability to purge people of their addictions and poisons and ailments and what have you. And she is also able to actually heal wounds with her light daggers. Let's see. The origin is that Tyrone Ty Johnson, Cloak, and Tandy Bowen, Dagger, actually met in New York City as runaways. And that... Oh, sorry. Page skipped there a little bit. There we go. Tyrone was and met in New York City as runaways. Ty was 17 years old and had ran away from home. He was originally from Boston, Mass, and he had a debilitating stuttering problem. And he ran away due to the traumatization that his speech impediment prevented his best friend from stepping in front of a moving vehicle. Tandy was 16 years old, and she came from a wealthy and privileged family from Shaker Heights, Ohio, and she ran away because her multi-million-dollar supermodel mother was too busy to, hang out with her daughter, raise her, play with her, etc., because of her career and socialite behaviors and tendencies. When they originally met, Ty was considering actually stealing her purse, only to be guilt-ridden and ashamed when she offered him money. A thief would then steal the purse, and Tyrone would actually go and retrieve Tandy's purse for her, thus causing a friendship to build between them. Afterwards, they had dinner together, and very quickly became, close friends. However, when Tandy accepted an offer of shelter from some strange men, Tyrone went along to protect her. However, the two teens were later found out that they were actually becoming test subjects for a criminal chemist named Simon Marshall, who had developed a synthetic form of heroin for the Maja and Silvermane, and that they were testing them on runaway teens that had no home, no shelter, etc. And somehow, unlike all the other test subjects, Ty and Tandy actually survived the injections of the drug and actually managed to flee. And it was during their escape that the drug actually ended up giving them superpowers, although Matt Fraction tried to retcon this by saying that they were already mutants and that the drug had simply awakened their latent abilities. But we're not going to really go into that, nor am I going to honestly, in my personal opinion, count that. Because that's just bullshit. I'm going to be bluntly honest, it's bullshit. Now, however, Ty would find himself completely engulfed in darkness and be surrounded by a strange, almost vampiric-like hunger that was eased in the presence of Tandy, who was actually glowing ultra bright, almost in a fluorescent type way. And he would try to hide his new shadowy appearance in a makeshift cloak of his own design. And he would begin to absorb Marshall's thugs into his darkness and then after, regurgitating them, Tandy struck them down with her daggers of light. And eventually they would come to call themselves Cloak and Dagger and declared a war on crime against drugs, combating drug dealers and helping runaway children that were going to be kidnapped and made into other test subjects. However, for all the work that they did to reform addicts and topple dealers, they realized that the power of drug abuse was a much greater evil than they could hope to conquer. It's also later revealed that Despair, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, was pulling the strings behind the scenes, manipulating everything the whole time. Cloak and Dagger would become vigilantes and hunted and killed Simon Marshall and his drug-dealing henchmen responsible for activating their powers. They first encountered Spider-Man during these events. They next murdered Silvermane in revenge and battled his reanimated cyborg form. They next teamed up with Spider-Man to thwart the Punisher's murder attempt on the Kingpin. When their activities became too damaging for the illegal drug trade, some dealers kidnapped members of the New Mutants and tried to control them by injecting them with a drug similar to that which gave the duo their powers. For a time they lost their powers to the heroes Sunspot and Wolfsbane, but they cooperated in retrieving them when it was learned that others were not handling it well. Cloak and Dagger saved them with Spider-Man, but turned down an offer to join the X-Men's School for Gifted Youngsters. Cloak and Dagger would later battle Silvermane and the Answer. The Kingpin wanted Dagger to help heal his wife, but Dagger refused to help him. Cloak and Dagger befriended the superpowered preteens, the Power Pack, and twice aided the New Mutants, junior trainees of the X-Men, and the duo would eventually learn they were mutants themselves, which is also the reason why they were the only test subjects to survive the administration of the drug in the first place. Okay, apparently it predates that, but still, I don't really count that. Though they tend to target ordinary street criminals, they have faced such devious foes as Dr. Doom, the Beyonder, Vermin, the Zapper, the Disciplinarian, the Warlord of Camera, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, Mephisto, Thanos, the Assembly of Evil, Firebrand, and even the Lightmaster. They encountered the Beyonder during Secret Wars 2. They also encountered Mayhem, a police officer who had gained powers from illegal drugs similar to what had been done to them. They next encountered Dr. Doom and Latveria. Alongside Doctor Strange, they battled Ecstasy. They were used in Nightmare's plot to defeat Doctor Strange. They battled Mr. Jip and Night and Day. They also encountered the Power Pack again. Dagger was later possessed by Night and battled X-Factor and lost her sight temporarily. Cloak and Dagger battled Hydro Man, the Second Jester, a Hulk android, Rock, and Fenris alongside the Avengers. Dagger later regained her sight and helped defeat Mr. Jip. Cloak later unknowingly met his twin sister, and Cloak and Dagger later battled Despair, learning that he gave them their dark form and light form, which had been pieces of his soul which interfered with their natural mutations. Dagger was one of the 7 brides selected by the Serpent God Set from the Atlantis Attacks crossover storyline. The other 6 being Jean Grey, the Invisible Woman, Andromeda, She-Hulk, Storm, and the Scarlet Witch. Cloak played a small part in the Infinity Gauntlet saga and was among the heroes assembled by Adam Warlock to fight Thanos. During this battle with Thanos, Cloak managed to suck Thanos into the Dark Force dimension, but he was killed as Thanos released energy from within him. All that was left were pieces of his cloak. His life was restored after most of the events were undone. Not all the heroes remembered his involvement, not even Cloak himself, due to cosmic manipulation of time. The two tended to live in churches supported by friends and priests. Cloak has run away many times, not understanding that Dagger is fully willing to use her light powers to satisfy his darkness. Cloak and Dagger are devoted to each other, but Dagger often wants more from life. While on an international case, Tandy performed I have no idea how to pronounce that, as Lady Light, and shared a romance with a supposed stowaway on a drug boat. Eventually, he was exposed as a criminal, but ultimately sacrificed himself to save Dagger. Tandy found new friends in the new warriors who teamed with Cloak, Dagger, and other heroes to defeat the shadow lunatic Darkling. She also joined the team for a brief time, leading to further tension with Cloak. They would also team with Spider-Man, Captain America, Black Cat, Nightwatch, Iron Fist, Deathlock, Morbius, Venom, and Starfire in the Maximum Carnage event to stop Cletus Cassidy and many others. She was supposedly killed by Shriek while saving an injured Spider-Man, but was later revealed to be severely wounded and recuperating inside Cloak's shroud, and was the key instrument in breaking up the Carnage family, quote-unquote. After Ty leaves Tandy's side, he is no longer able to control his hunger and consumed any and every lawbreaker, no matter how small the offense. While searching for him in churches, she meets the Black Widow, who she teams up with to prevent a church from being robbed. Daredevil later appears, and both assist him on a mission he received from the Punisher. Dagger becomes a member of the now defunct Marvel Knights team, pairing up with many of the different heroes, including Shang-Chi, Luke Cage, Moon Knight, and Daredevil. During her time with the Knights, she developed a deep friendship with Black Widow. Natasha brings Tandy to the guidance of Doctor Strange in hopes of finding a crazed Ty. The Knights and Doctor Strange locate and battle an enhanced and deranged Cloak, during which most of the group was absorbed into his cape. Doctor Strange reveals that he has become possessed by Nightmare, and Tandy manages to overpower and absorb his cloak abilities, freeing everyone from the Dark Force dimension. For some time, Black Widow lets Ty and Tandy live in her apartment, which was later attacked by a homicidal LMD of Nick Fury. Though at this point he was a normal human, Ty somehow still managed to defeat the robot. And eventually they would make their return in Runaways, in which Tyrone appears repowered and stable. At one stage, the LAPD recruited the team to locate the Runaways. During their initial encounter, she is quickly knocked out by Nico Minru. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Minoru with her light, and Cloak was easily absorbed. Chase Stain, Carolina Dean, Alex Wilder, and Nico. And I don't even know how to pronounce her name. I'll just call her Yorks. Was able to halt Dagger's light attacks with her dinosaur Old Lace, as Dagger's light had no effect on animals. Molly Hayes managed to pull Cloak's cloak from his body, severing his connection to the Dark Force dimension. And here we go. So ring of force to a Dark Force dimension. This caused a ceasefire, in which time Yorks and Molly explained to Cloak and Dagger that the LAPD were actually corrupted under the influence of the Runaways' supervillain parents, the Pride. Cloak managed to reconnect to his cloak in the Dark Force dimension and rescue the other Runaways that he had absorbed. He and Dagger promised to return to New York and bring the Avengers to stop the Pride and rescue the Runaways. However, Alex, the traitor in the Runaways, instead contacted the LAPD, which had the Pride erase Tandy and Ty's actual memories of the group, thus preventing them from helping the Runaways. Cloak was later impersonated by a man who was using mutant growth hormones to replicate his powers. The man stalked and attacked Dagger, leaving her hospitalized. After a fight with the new Avengers, Cloak regained his memories and requested the Runaways' assistance in clearing his name, as he had been framed for attacking Dagger. He appealed to the fact that they all shared bonds in being Runaways and explained the reasons he and Dagger never helped them as planned. They agreed to help and successfully helped him apprehend his imposter, a delusional nurse who believed that he and Tandy were in a relationship. During the Civil War, they were revealed to be members of Captain America's, anti-registration group during the Civil War. Cloak was shot by S.H.I.E.L.D. tranquilizers while teleporting Cap and the rebel faction to a chemical plant where they believed a catastrophe accident had taken place. It turned out to be a trap by Iron Man, who was there waiting with the pro-registration force. Dagger was hit with a lightning attack by Ragnarok, the clone of Thor. It was then revealed that the pair were captured during a mission in Queens and jailed in the negative zone. They were freed by Hulkling, who had disguised as Hank Pym, which led to the climactic battle between both sides, in which Cloak teleports to Times Square. Luke Cage tells Cloak, who drops the new Avengers at the top of Stark Tower, to steal one of Tony's Quinjets. When Cage offers to take him with them to find the downed Skrull ship, Cloak refuses and vanishes. And after that... almost lost my place there. And then there's a whole deal with, Utopia and Dark X-Men where, Norman Osborn approaches them and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to get into that because it was stupid. It's later finally confirmed in a one-shot in 2010 by Dr. Nemesis that, in fact, they were not mutants, even though they were members of the X-Men there for a while. And that apparently a girl from Cloak's old neighborhood had apparently kidnapped Dagger and used her as a... Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. It was actually she kidnapped Cloak because she knew his identity and tortured him to keep him from using his powers. And eventually Dagger, alongside Captain America and many other Avengers characters, even members of the X-Men, Wolverine included, actually helped rescue Ty. During the events of Spider Island, there was a plot where Mr. Negative would receive a prophecy that Dagger was going to kill him. So she was kidnapped and corrupted by his altering and transmutive, touch abilities. And Cloak, seeing that she was dying, asked, Mr. Negative to agree to help, change his powers. So basically now, currently in the comics, they have it where Tandy now has Dark Force powers and Ty now has Light Force powers. So their powers are now swapped currently in the comics. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's actually as much information on Cloak and Dagger as I'm at least willing to read into. I'm not going to get into the details of the later stuff, as you can tell. But this is a very criminally underrated duo. These guys, these two, they're not just a good superhero duo, but they actually make quite a cute couple, in my opinion. Which I'm sure a lot of people are going to find a little bit weird, but I like the concept of the fact that, these two had a friendship since, being, runaways, and that they've built a very strong bond with each other over the years. And I'm really hoping that one day they'll be done justice, and I actually hope that one day they'll get their own standalone movie in, Marvel's cinematic universe. We might even actually see them in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man series, maybe later on in number 4 or 5, if it even gets that far. But anyway, guys, as always, Cloak and Dagger, hope you guys enjoyed it, and Stay tuned for the next one as always.